During the Shanghai lockdowns, the English word run became a buzzword in China. The Chinese have turned it into a subject of knowledge and created the word runology or 润学. The word is so popular that it has its own Chinese wiki page. It means the study of how to escape from China and immigrate to developed countries. Ordinary Chinese citizens, as well as the super rich, are all looking for ways to leave. The super rich have already started the grand exodus. Where are the rich people moving to? Hi everyone, welcome to my show. I'm Lei. On the day that the Chinese regime announced adherence to societal zero COVID without wavering in April, the search index for immigration immediately soared 440% on WeChat and 1,455% on video-related sources. Baidu's user behavior data showed the word immigration exploded 400 times in searches in April. The wealthy regions of Shanghai, Jiangsu, Guangdong, and Beijing topped the list in the immigration search fever. Although ordinary Chinese still favor the United States, Canada, and Australia as their destinations, wealthy Chinese have shifted their preference from Europe and North America to Asia for immigration. The tiny Southeast Asian city-state of Singapore has become a top destination for the Chinese rich. The number one reason is the fear of Western sanctions amid the current geopolitical tensions. And the other reason is that Singapore offers a shorter immigration application process. Being the world's fourth largest financial center in 2021, Singapore is politically stable with a mature legal system and a pro-business environment. There's no language barrier for Chinese immigrants, since most people speak Chinese in Singapore. Most importantly, Singapore doesn't have a wealth tax and has lower corporate and personal income taxes. Companies in Singapore are helping wealthy Chinese, as well as the super rich from other regions and countries, transfer their assets to the country through family office structures. Family offices are wealth management advisory firms that serve ultra-high net worth investors and their families. In 2018, there were 27 family offices in Singapore. By 2021, the number reached 453, a 16-fold increase in just 4 years. Among the 453 wealthy individuals are Sergey Brin, who is the co-founder of Google, and James Dyson, the founder of UK electronic giant Dyson. As of April this year, 143 new family offices have been added in less than 6 months. 63 are from China. In response to the overwhelming demand, the Monetary Authority of Singapore announced stricter criteria effective this April. It doubled the requirement for initial fund deposits at the time of application from $3.7 million to $7.3 million and required applicants to increase total funds to $15 million within 2 years. Also, the family must hire at least 2 investment professionals and spend a minimum of $146,000 in business expenditures annually. Singapore officials have been cautious about discussing the origins of the family offices and their source of funds. In an article published by the Chinese media Caixin Weekly on June 6, the Monetary Authority of Singapore responded to Caixin's inquiry by stating that it did not have authoritative data on the number of SFOs and the inflow of funds. An SFO is a single-family office, which is a higher tier of family office structures. It requires a total investment of $100 million and offers a dedicated team of accountants, lawyers, and investment professionals to serve the family. With the arrival of foreign wealth, Singapore saw the biggest increase in housing prices in 2021 in more than a decade. The sales of luxury homes tripled year over year. Singapore is now the world's second largest market for foreign real estate investors after the United States. A Chinese buyer from Fujian province bought 20 units at Canning Hill Piers, an upscale private housing development in Singapore, for a total estimated value of $62 million. According to a source familiar with the transaction, the buyer's funds were transferred from Indonesia to Singapore. The buyer is considering buying another 10 units, bringing his total purchase to more than $73 million. It's common practice for the wealthy Chinese to buy multiple homes in Singapore through a trust that conceals their names. On May 9th, Singapore's Ministry of Finance announced a 35% additional duty on trust real estate buyers who transfer properties to anonymous beneficiaries. In addition, the duty for foreign property buyers increased from 20% to 30%. The Chinese investor I just mentioned, who bought 20 properties, has paid $22 million in taxes. In addition to moving their wealth, some Chinese have chosen Southeast Asia as a place to expand their businesses. Singapore has become the location of many companies' regional headquarters. With the Chinese gaming market struggling amid the government-controlled license approval policy, many Chinese game makers are now choosing to go abroad to find growth. MyHoYu and Yuzu Interactive have set up regional headquarters in Singapore. Sean Tong and Louis Chuang, co-founders of China's leading private equity firm, Boyu Capital, have moved part of the company from Hong Kong to Singapore. Boyu was founded by Alvin Jiang, the grandson of former Chinese Communist Party leader Jiang Zemin. The Wall Street Journal reported that Boyu Capital moved to Singapore in 2019 because it worried about Jiang Zemin's weakening influence in the CCP's internal political fight. Anticipating an upsurge of Chinese immigrants and businesses in Southeast Asia, Ant Group announced on June 6 the launch of a wholly owned digital wholesale bank in Singapore called Annext Bank. Annext will serve small, mid-sized, and micro companies in Southeast Asia, particularly those with cross-border operations. This is the first major international move by Ant Group in 2 years, since its failed $37 billion IPO in 2020. A Shanghai-based pharma company, Fosun Pharmaceuticals, acquired a 60% stake in the largest private cancer treatment center in Singapore, OncoCare Medical. Fosun established an office in Singapore back in 2015 to prepare for growth in the Southeast Asian market. In addition, as the CCP tightens regulations on cryptocurrencies, droves of Chinese crypto players moved their bases to Singapore in May 2021, months before Beijing handed down the final blow to the country's crypto industry. Ant Group and Fosun Group are just two of the many Chinese companies that have established a presence in Singapore. Other notable players include Alibaba and Huawei, Tencent, and ByteDance. As more Chinese move to Singapore, they are changing the landscape of the country's rich and famous. Of Singapore's newly announced top 50 billionaires, 8 of them, or 16%, are immigrant billionaires from China. The total wealth of these 8 accounts for 35% of the total wealth of the top 50 billionaires combined. 4 of the new immigrants from China are in the top 10. The co-founder and chairman of Shenzhen Mindray Medical International, Li Xiting, is the wealthiest man in Singapore. He has replaced Zhang Yong, the Hapa billionaire who founded the restaurant chain Haidi Lao. Zhang was the richest man in Singapore from 2019 to 2020. The grand exodus is getting on the nerves of the Beijing authorities. So, on April 27th, a spokesman for China's Immigration Administration announced the Ministry of Public Security's 2022 initiative called Operation Mongoose Hunt. The state media outlet Beijing Daily calls the operation a move by the authorities to crack down on so-called illegal immigration entries and departures. But this type of initiative doesn't stop the ultra-high net worth travelers, but it does closely scrutinize ordinary Chinese when they leave China. Various internet posts have showed people having their passports or green cards cut up at airports before departing China, while Chinese returning from abroad were questioned about their future travel and immigration plans. In the regime's own words, It wants to control those departures with malicious intent. I think departure with malicious intent is an offense that exists only in China. What does it mean? A cell phone screenshot obtained by Radio Free Asia that recorded instructions sent to a patrol team at Shanghai Pudong Airport explains it. Anyone with hatred for the country and the party will not be allowed to leave the country if, for example, a permanent resident card of another country, a large amount of foreign currency, or savings certificates of another country are found in the luggage. The passport of those with malicious motives for leaving the country will be destroyed on the spot. At this point, a significant number of China's 1.3 billion people want to leave with malicious intent. What's the regime going to do? Some say that the CCP might eventually lock up the whole country using COVID as an excuse. The reality is that it will be more and more difficult for the Chinese to leave. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.